Hello cyberspace, my name is Garrett Mills and welcome to episode 2 of my 1.7.10 Minecraft modding tutorial. In the last video we set up our development environment so that we have a working IDE that will allow us to develop Minecraft mods in Forge in Minecraft 1.7.10, and we set up Eclipse. And so if you haven't done that yet, I recommend you click the eye in the top right hand corner of this video to jump back to that video and go through it before we actually start writing some code in this video. Now in this video we are going to take a look at creating our main mod class as well as setting up the proxies for our mod, and we'll talk a little bit more about what all that means. So first things first, we want to open up Eclipse and point it to that Eclipse folder inside of the folder we are keeping Forge in for our mod. It's the same folder that we set up last time. Hit OK, and Eclipse is going to load up the dependencies and get set up for our mod. And then it should open our main editor. So like I said, in this video we're going to be creating our main mod class and setting up the proxies for it. So this assumes you have some basic level of Java and object-oriented programming. It's not terribly complicated, but you need to understand like what I mean when I say class and inheritance. So we're going to jump right in, and the default Forge environment comes with this example mod, and we can delete this since we want to start from fresh. So then over here in this source main Java folder, we want to create a package. Now a package is essentially a group of files that make up your mod. So we're going to hit this create new package button, and then we want to name it. So generally it's named after if you have a website. So like my website, if I were doing this, would be com.github.glmdev. So it's backwards from greatest to smallest of your website. Or if you don't have a website, then maybe just your Minecraft username. So that's what I'm going to do. So my Minecraft username is Castavris. So that'll be the package root dot and then the name of the mod. So we're just going to make this tutorial mod, so toot mod. So we have our package. This will contain all the files for our mod. So now that we're in here, we need to create the main class that Forge is going to load our mod from. This is the class that everything's going to start in and everything's going to run from. So we're going to hit this new class button. We're going to name it main.java, and then we're going to hit OK. Oh, we don't enter Java. We just enter the class name in Eclipse. But it's going to create the file main.java. And so then in here you can see we've got public class main in our package. So now there's a few things we want to do. In here we need to declare that this is a mod, and we do that by using an annotation. However, before we do that, it's important to set up some basic variables. So things that you might reference throughout your mod, like the mod's name, its shortcode, its version, etc. They get repeated a lot, but they can also change. So the version you're going to change every time you release it. And you don't want to have to go through your mod all the time and go change that in a bunch of different places. So it's important to have it consolidated in one variable that you can refer to. So what I like to do is I like to create a variables class that does nothing but store variables like the name, the version, etc. And so I usually do this in the lib package. Now the lib package, which we're going to create by clicking on our package name, hitting new package, and naming it castavris.tootmod.lib or whatever your username is. The lib package is usually used for dependencies and the like that aren't necessarily runtime, but they are dependencies of your mod. Also, one other thing that I like to change is package presentation to be hierarchical so that it stacks up like normal folders. So in this lib class, or in this lib package, we're going to create a new class and name it modvars or something similar. This will just store all of our variables. So in this class we need three things. We need the mod name, the mod version, and the mod code. So the mod name we want to be public static final mod name, and this is a string. Mod name equals then the name of our mod, so tutorial mod. So then we're going to have the same thing down here. So public static final string mod version in the version. So this is version 0.0.1 currently. And then the code. Now in Minecraft, it used to be that, for example, in references for mods, you would just use special numbers that refer to all the blocks from that mod. But now when you're referencing blocks in-game or for the assets, your mod has to have a short code, a string, that it uses for commands. And this has to be alphanumeric, and it can't have spaces. So like Minecraft's is just Minecraft, all lowercase. So we want to create public static final string mod ID and then whatever. So we're just going to call it tutmod since it's our tutorial. So we can save this, and this class will become even more useful as we go on and we add different variables to this and whatnot. So once we have our variables created, we want to tell Forge that this is a mod file that it should load into the game so that it doesn't think it's just some random class. And we do this by using the @mod annotation. This annotation essentially tells Forge mod loader that this is a mod file, not just a class. So this @mod annotation needs 3 variables to tell it what to do. It needs our mod ID, which remember we created in modvars.modid. And if you saw what I just did there, I typed the name of the class and I hit dot, and then I started typing the name of a variable, and it auto-completed it with all of the available variables that were in this modvars class, and it imported the class automatically for me. That's one of the nice things about having an IDE to do this in. So now we need the name of the mod, so modvars dot mod name, and then version modvars dot mod version. And then if we hover over this, we can see it's got an error. It's just because we have to import the mod annotation, so we want to hit import mod from cpw.mods. And so there we go. This officially will show up to Forge as a mod class. So now there's a couple other things we need to add in here. So if you're unfamiliar with the way Forge works, Forge has a 3-stage setup process when it launches the game. It has the pre-initialization phase where mods declare themselves and load variables and blocks. It has the initialization phase where crafting recipes and other things are done, and then the post-initialization where config stuff and intermod integrations are done. So 3 stages that Forge uses to load, and so we need a function in here for each of those. So public void pre-init, this is the pre-init phase, and then it takes a variable, and that variable is type fml pre-initialization. Yep, definitely can't spell. Event, and then the name of the event. And if we hover over this, you can see we can import pre-initialization event. So that's our pre-init function, and we need to create one for the init and post-init stage. So public void init and post-init. Now here's a little trick in Eclipse that is very useful from time to time. So you see that I need to import 3 classes, And if you hover over them, Eclipse knows what class it needs to import automatically. And so we can import them all at once by holding Control-Shift-O, and it will automatically pull in and import the classes. So now in here we've got the 3 stages of our Forge init, a pre-initialization stage, so in here we'll call all the methods for pre-initialization. Then initialization, we'll call the methods, and post-initialization, we'll call them in there. So now there's one last thing we need to add to this class before we go on starting with our proxies, and that is the instance. So in object-oriented programming, there are multiple ways of accessing a class, but to access a class directly, all of its functions and variables need to be static. However, this class doesn't have static variables, which means to access it from other classes, we need an instance. So in here, we can create an instance, and we're going to have this be public static main, so the name of this class, instance new main. So what this is going to do, we want to import instance, is it's going to create a variable called instance that holds a copy or an instance of this class so that it can be accessed statically from other classes. So this is our main mod class. This is the scaffolding that we're going to use to write all of our mod code, and we've already told Forge that it is a mod. And so if we were to load up the game now, Forge would find this class and it would call each of these methods. Now obviously nothing would happen because there are no functions or anything defined in those methods. So the next thing we need to do is create our proxy structure. So the way Minecraft mods work and the way Minecraft in general works is there are some bits of code that are handled by the server, and then there are some bits of code which are handled by the client. And this isn't always immediately obvious, especially in local games, but there is actually a separate server running from the client. Even if you're just playing on your computer in a single-player world, there is a Minecraft server running, and then your client is rendering things from that server. And so there may be some times where we only want some of our code to run on the server, or we only want some of our code to run on the client, or we want it to run on both. And so we create proxies that, based on where a thing is injected into the mod, whether it's injected into the server proxy, the client proxy, or a common proxy, which would be both of them, it determines what side that object or that mechanic gets initialized on. So we're going to create our proxies now. We want to do this in a new package just to kind of keep things clean. So mcmod.info. And so then in here we're going to have 3 classes. The first class is the common proxy. Now this common proxy class will be where we define things that we want to happen on both sides. We want it to be initialized and we want it to be happening on the client. We want it to be initialized and happening on the server. So this would be things like blocks with textures, items, crafting recipes, things that both the client and the server need access to. And so this is going to model very closely our main mod file, because that's essentially what it is. It's essentially just another version of this that we can have more fine control over. So we want to, and you can see I just copied pasted these from our main.java, but we need a pre-initialization function, an initialization function, and a post-initialization function. So in here, it's going to, we could define a block in here and it would show up on both the client and the server side. So now we need to create the individual proxies for each side. So we're going to have a server proxy and a client proxy. So client proxy, and then you can just, oop, my bad. So in this client proxy class, we want it to contain all the methods in the common proxy also, because the client should do everything that's in the common proxy on top of what it's told to do. So in here we need to extend the common proxy, and so this is a object-oriented programming mechanic where client proxy now contains all of common proxy and then all the additional methods defined in it. So we again we need these three methods in the client proxy, but the thing here is we also want to call the functions in the superclass, so the common proxy. We also want to call these functions too. So inside these functions we need to call super, which refers to our superclass .preinit, and then we want to pass it this. So what this is going to do is when this gets executed, it's going to go to common proxy and it's going to execute everything in here. Then it's going to come back and execute the rest of our stuff in here. So super.init and super.postinit. So there we go. This is where we'll put client-side proxy things, and then we need to do the exact same thing for the server proxy. So this is going to extend the common proxy, and it's going to have our three functions, and it's also going to call super.preinit, super.init, and postinit. So there we go, we've got our three proxy classes defined. So now in our main mod file we need to tell those proxies to start. So we need to create the proxy variable. So we're going to have public static common proxy, and then just the name of it. Oh, sorry, this just ends here. So what this is going to do is if we import it, it's going to pull in this common proxy class from here and create a variable for it, and then we need to add the proxy annotation, which is a Forge specific annotation that tells Forge that this is a two-sided proxy. So at sided proxy is the name of the annotation, and this takes two additional parameters. It takes the client side, and so this needs to have a string which refers to the fully qualified name of the client class. So castavarus.tootmod.proxy.client and then the server side, castavarus.tootmod.proxy.serverproxy. And so now we can import the sided proxy, and there we go. So now in the pre-initialization function we need to tell the proxy to init. So we want to hit proxy.preinit and pass it e. So what this is going to do is we only have to call this preinit function on proxy because this sided proxy annotation defines the client side and the server side, and so then all of the rest of the handling of sorting out the client side and the server side is all done by Forge. We don't have to do that ourselves anymore. So here we want to call proxy.init and then proxy.postinit. So there we go. We have set up the proxy for our mod. You're basically done in this main class because almost everything else you're going to do, you're going to put in the proxy classes, either common, server, or client, and you really shouldn't have to add a whole lot more to this main mod class. Alright, so the last thing we're going to take a look at in this video is the mcmod.info file. Now this mcmod.info file contains a Java or a JSON array that tells Minecraft a little bit about your mod and this is usually displayed if you've ever clicked on the mods tab on the home screen and then you see all the mods listed on the left hand side and you click on them and there's some info. It's essentially what that is. So if we come over here in our sidebar and we go down to source main resources, we see there's the mcmod.info file that came with Forge as an example. So we can just modify this to our liking. So we see we've got the mod ID. We just want to replace this with the mod ID of our mod. So toot mod, the name, tutorial mod, brief description of it. So this is all a test. And then the version, the MC version is what version of Minecraft it's intended for, so 1.7.10. The URL of your website, if you have one. If you had a URL that users could go to get the latest version of your mod, you put it there. The list of authors, so if there were multiple authors, you would just put a comma and then another name in there. And then credits, so we'll just leave that the same. And then logo file, screenshots, and dependencies we will look at another day. So now that we've customized this mcmod.info file to our liking, we can hit the run button and we're going to see some scrolling text in the console as Minecraft inits. And what's happening right now is Forge is looking through all of the classes and it's looking for that @mod annotation. And once it finds it, it's going to call each of the 3 methods in turn for every mod. And so if we look down here, we see we have 4 mods loaded, 4 mods active. So there's Forge, FML, the Minecraft Coder Pack, and then our mod, tutorial mod. And you can see the version we put in there, the mod ID, credits, the description, authors, our URL, everything. It pulled all this from that mcmod.info file. Now, our mod's not going to do anything because we don't have any blocks or items or mechanics yet, but that's just a brief look at getting your mod set up and in the game. Alright guys, thanks for watching the second video in my Minecraft 1.7.10 modding tutorial. As usual, I'll be down in the comments if you need help with anything or if you have questions, concerns, issues, I'd love to hear them. Or if you just want to showcase something you built, I'd love to see it. Be sure to share it down there with me, whether it's a Minecraft mod or not. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter, Google+, email, via my blog. And be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss the next video in this series where we're going to take a look at adding our first custom block with a custom texture to the game. So that will be exciting. Be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss that. And as usual, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.